Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland, with me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Today we are doing part 2 of getting legally married in Ireland. Last week's episode, if you missed it, we had Romy, McAuley and Louise Bradshaw, and they answered all my questions to do with registering your intent to marry, the green folder, all of it. And they had so much wisdom that I thought, you know what, we can't end here. We need to have a part 2. And so that's what we're doing today. We've got part 2 where I had a whole lot of questions from you guys about what to do if you want your friend to officiate your wedding, or if you're Catholic, your other half is Church of Ireland, how does it work? Romy and Louise covered all of that for us in part 2. So take a listen. I think you're going to like it. Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays. You might recognize the outfits and faces in this episode because last week we did an episode all about how to get legally married in Ireland. And it was so jam-packed full of amazing bits of information from Romy and Louise that I thought we had to do part 2. And so as soon as we finished part 1, we went straight into part 2, which is what we're recording right now. And so before we get started, before we get right into it, I'd love for you guys to introduce yourselves. So Romy, why don't you kick us off? Tell us a bit about who you are.
Hi, I'm Romy McAuley. I'm a registered solemnizer with my group, which is called Our Spiritual Earth. I'm going into my 14th year of being a celebrant in Ireland. Love doing weddings. I will go anywhere around the country, wherever I'm wanted and loved. And I'm obviously Australian, as I said last time. I haven't changed. I'm still Australian.
That's cool. And Louise, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hi everybody again. I'm Louise Bradshaw and I qualified with an organisation called One Spirit. I'm a legal wedding celebrant. I'm based in Dublin and I do weddings down the country, really, down as far as Wexford and up north, but I don't cover the whole country. Okay,
that's great.
About me. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, ladies, for being here again. I'm so excited to chat about the legal side of things. So for anybody who missed part 1, firstly, I just want to pause and say you need to hear it because we spoke all about giving your notice. We spoke about the green folder. We spoke about the timing, how to make your appointments, documents you need, pretty much everything you need to know about getting legally married in Ireland and setting up that appointment. We covered that, and so it's important to go and listen to that. But today we're going to talk a little bit about types of ceremonies and how to get legally married, who can do what, when can you do what, all of that sort of thing. And so I'm going to ask a question that I think a few people have wondered as well. And so I was hoping that Romy, maybe you could kick us off by telling us a bit about the different types of ceremonies that you can have in Ireland.
Absolutely, definitely. And when it comes down to the legal aspect and everything, you really do need to think about what and how and where, obviously, you're going to get married, because there are choices out there for couples to make decisions on. It's not just a matter of, we'll just go and get married. That you need to know. So there's 4 different types of wedding ceremony really that you could have here. The first one is a civil ceremony, and this is with the Civil Registration Office, which is the HSE registrar. So it's a legalised ceremony, so you'll be legally married at the end of it, and it's with one of the registry office representatives, so an HSE registrar. They'll do either a ceremony within the registry office itself, so you can go into the city and go into the registry office, or they will also go out to your venue, which must be HSE approved, which is very simple. It just means that it has to be open to the public. You can't get married in your own house, unfortunately. But an HSE approved venue, which the registrars will also go to. So they do 2 types, registry office or out to your venue for a legal marriage. The second type of ceremony is with a religious body, and this is where the majority of solemnizers or people like Louise and myself who can do legalised marriages, the majority of solemnisers around the country are classified under the religious organisation. And this means that the body or groups that the solemniser works for has been nominated by, which is a religious or faith-based group. Now, it could be anything from Catholic, Church or Protestant or Muslim, pagan, like Louise and myself, we're multi-faith, or, just any type of religious couple can come to us. We're a lot more flexible and open to a lot different sort of multi-faith groups coming to us. So there's a lot of different religious bodies out there that you can have a look at. Majority of them, again, like the Catholic Church, you'd be going into a church building itself to obviously have your wedding ceremony. Or when you're coming to more of the multi-faith groups, we would go to your actual venue itself. So there's some that do have their own buildings, but the majority of the time we'd be going to an actual venue like a hotel or castle or wherever you want to have your wedding ceremony. The third classification of group is secular. Like with Louise and my own groups, with the multi-faith, they're like that, but by definition, it's a secular organisation. So it's more not actually bringing a spiritual element into the ceremony. There's two bodies that are on the HSC list of solemnisers under secular, which is the Humanist Association, or a very lovely gentleman called Dara Malloy who lives on the Arid Islands. And they're the only two secular people that are groups that are on the HSC list. And then the fourth group is a non-legal. So that's the more independent celebrants that work around the country, and they would hold the wedding ceremony for you but would not be legal. So it's really, really important that when you're contacting a celebrant and you find somebody online that you really like through Weddings Online, you go through all of the suppliers and you find us, then one of the first questions, if you want to be legally married, you need to ask the question, are you a registered solemniser? And that person should tell you straight away, yes or no, and then you know exactly what you need to be doing to then go and get legally married. But the four groups, so civil, religious, secular, or non-legal. And you need to know that, because when you go in and do your notification, you need to know which group and which box to tick on your forms. So it's really important to have a look and make decisions on what you're actually wanting to have.
I have another thing, if I just jump in there with Romy, is the HSE registrars just work Monday to Friday. So I think they're office hours as well. So they are not available at the weekend. They charge a fee, I think, to come out to your venue, but I don't think
they do.
Nominal fee. I wanted to say that, and I think that you covered everything, didn't you?
Yeah. So a lot of the religious and secular would be 7 days a week, whereas the civil with the HSC registrars, like Louise said, is Monday to Friday only. So, and I think most of them actually, when you're having an HSC registrar coming to your venue, they will have a set time for their ceremony as well, because they need to come from their office out to the venue. So usually it's around about 3:00 in the afternoon for the HSC registrar's wedding ceremony at your venue. Obviously in the registry office, you can pretty much pick any time of the day, Monday to Friday. As Louise said, office hours. I don't think you can go in at midnight.
I think the other thing is, Kelly, that most of the celebrants, legal celebrants, solemnisers, who fall under the religious category, people come to me who want, say, no religion at all. We can actually marry you with no religion at all, just your civil legal vows, if that's what you want. Other people want rituals included, like hand fasting, candle lighting. So we are able to, marry people of all faiths and none, and all gender. And everybody is welcome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that. Being all inclusive, being able to, to marry different couples. You guys have just answered that question amazingly with so many bits of wisdom and really important information. And so I did have a question that we got on Instagram from Emma, who says, if she has a humanist ceremony in Ireland, will her marriage be legally recognized in the UK? I wondered if Romy, do you know the answer to that?
Absolutely. And yes, it is. So if it's a legally registered marriage here in this country, it will be recognised pretty much everywhere else in the world. So UK, anywhere. So if you were going off to another country and you're having a ceremony somewhere else, so say if you had some family over in the UK and they couldn't make it here for your wedding ceremony and you're having a ceremony over there, that other ceremony could not be legalised because you've already been legally married here. You can only do it once.
Yeah, and on the other note, if you get married in Spain or Italy or somewhere, and you come over, don't have an Irish legal wedding. Isn't that right, Romy? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's right. You'd need to check because obviously depending on where you're marrying around the world, some countries like Spain and France, they have their wedding ceremonies that they're actually in two parts. So you'd actually, if you're going to get married in Spain, you'd go to their civic courts, so like their city hall, and you'd be legally married in their city hall first, and then you might go off and have like a church ceremony afterwards, which would be a non-legal ceremony. So you actually have two. So it's really important if you're having a destination wedding and you're going outside of Ireland to very much look into what is needed and required of you if you're going somewhere else, or vice versa if you're actually coming here, then obviously you need to double check to make sure that you understand the process that's required here as well. And because here we need to do the notification process, so there is actually kind of the two steps. You can't just go into a venue and get married. You do need to do that little bit of paperwork first, and it's the same if you're going overseas as well. So it's important that you Google and look things up.
Yes.
Or ask people.
Ask the experts. That's great.
The experts.
Speaking of asking the experts, we did get another question in from Rachel who says, if you have a Catholic groom, a Church of Ireland bride, how does it actually work? So Louise, do you know, how would they make that work legally?
Oh, it makes absolutely no difference. It's, couples of, as I said, all faiths and none. So a lot of couples as well, you would have one partner who maybe has no religion, another partner who wants something religious, but they're not going to get married in, say, a Catholic or a Church of Ireland church because they don't feel it's fair to the other partner. So, I actually have a wedding coming up with a Hindu couple, a Hindu partner and an Irish Catholic, and they want to bring in some elements from the Hindu ceremony, and we're going to have a little bit of, just a few words in their language and some music, some Hindu music, and just kind of make everything inclusive. But it makes absolutely no difference legally.
Okay.
I actually had one the other day, which was exactly that. And we had some Hindu elements and everything in the ceremony. It was amazing. So I had two grooms arriving on horseback, and they had some Hindu elements and dancing and everything. It was absolutely fantastic. So outside of a castle, Kilkee Castle, and it was just stunning. So it's great to have multi-faith ceremonies. Really, really great.
That's awesome. It sounds like a really special way of, bringing two different worlds together, things that one party really wants to bring in and the other. I love that.
Yeah, being respectful to both, both faiths.
Yeah. And I think that's where, especially for Louise and myself, with the groups that we work with, in the fact that we are multi-faith and we are very accepting of any type of faith, that bringing the two into the ceremony is actually really lovely, because like she was saying, you don't feel like, okay, well, if we go to a Catholic church, well, then the other can't do their sort of faith in that environment, whereas some of the ceremonies that we have, because we can, have both coming in. I mean, I've had I've had beautiful ceremonies where we've had readings from the Bible and the Quran. So it's amazing that you can actually, offer this to couples and everything, and they don't need to feel that they're leaning towards one and pushing another one to the side. You can absolutely have the ceremonies that it's inclusive of everybody, so which is really lovely.
Yeah, there's spiritual now. There's a lot of spirituality, and people don't really want to associate themselves with one specific religion or not, but yet they have a faith, So, yeah, it is really nice. People have prayers, they have readings, they have all sorts of things. People just want to write the civil vows and they don't want you staying too long. So it just really depends on the couple.
Yeah. That's great. Well, I do have one final question. We got a question on Instagram from Carl and also from Kira asking about having their friends officiate the wedding. So how can it be legal? Can you get legally married if a friend is officiating, or do you need to do the legal bit separately? How does it work?
There's a couple of different things. Sorry, Louise, I don't want to...
Go on, you start, yeah.
There's a couple of different things. I mean, obviously, if you have somebody who's not a registered solemnizer and not on the list, the HSE list of solemnizers, then that person cannot legally marry you. So they can't solemnize the marriage, which is what our name implies. So, yes, you can absolutely have your friend conducting a ceremony for you, but it wouldn't be legalised if they are conducting the full ceremony themselves. So there's a couple of options that you can do. You can look at having the paperwork done separately to your wedding ceremony. So you could maybe go into the registry office maybe a couple of days before the actual wedding and finish the paperwork side of things and just go in with your two witnesses and just do the signing. So you're technically legally married before you have your ceremony. And then on the day of your wedding, you have your friend conducting a more symbolic ceremony for you. You can also look at the possibility of having a solemnizer coming along to your ceremony as well and working in conjunction with your friend. But it's extremely important to understand that our authorization is given to us because of the fact that we work for a body and we work for an organisation, and that body has authorised us and nominated us to the HSE to solemnise marriages. So what that means is for any solemniser conducting a marriage ceremony, that the ceremony itself must be overseen by that body that's actually solemnising the marriage. So that means that basically you couldn't go into a Catholic church and have a Muslim ceremony. Like you can only go to these places and have the ceremony that the person that's solemnising the marriage is with their faith. Now, if it's like with Louise and myself that we are multi-faith and we can have any faith and none, then obviously we can, include no religious based content in the ceremony, but the ceremony itself still needs to be guided and overseen by us. So your friend can more than happy, and I've done this with some ceremonies that I've had friends of the couple that have come up and done like the love story part of the ceremony and done a really lovely piece during the actual ceremony and talked about the couple and, put the very personalised touches into the ceremony, but then the main part of the ceremony, like the solemnisation, the marriage declarations, the vows, the pronouncement at the end, it's all done by the solemniser. And that's very important that you understand that there is a difference with how the ceremony must be structured.
Yeah, like Kelly, even, we really have to check everything to make sure we're happy with it. Like even if a couple are writing their own personal vows and they don't want each other to see them, they would have to send them to us before the wedding. Usually everything is fine, but just to make sure there's nothing that we're not comfortable about saying, or doing. And we have to be very happy before we can sign. It's a legal document before we can sign off on somebody being legally married.
Wow. Oh my word. You guys have answered so many questions of mine and of couples who spoke to us on Instagram. So firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing so much amazing information with us just in both parts of the podcast. Thank you for being here. What I will do is I will drop some links into the notes of this podcast just so people can find out who both of you guys are. So that's Louise Bradshaw, Romy McAuley. I'll put those links into the notes for the episode so people can find you guys, and then all the information about the different types of ceremonies and all the legal things we've spoken about. I'm going to condense that information, put it into the podcast as well. The blog post. So the blog post podcast will come out at the same time, and people can read along if they would like to do that as well. Thank you,
and Romy, thanks for your assistance.
It's lovely to see you both. Thank you, Kelly, so much. And please, anyone, just contact us, get in touch with us. I'm sure Louise is the same. Just DM us through Instagram or through our websites and everything, and ask any questions. I talk to people about all of this
help a couple, whether they're legal or non-legal or any questions at all, or to guide anybody that wants information.
Absolutely. You don't need to be working with us to ask us a question. It's very, very easy to answer anything. So
that's great. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. A special shout out to this week's wedding planning experts, Romy McAuley and Louise Bradshaw. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.